Meeting to order.
Recording in progress.
6:34. For those attending tonight's meeting, should be aware that the meeting is being audio and video recorded by Air Public Access and ASRSD. Any audience members who wish to record any part of the meeting must inform the chairperson, who will announce the recording. This is to comply with the Mass wiretap statute. The listing of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may, in fact, be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. Per the Air Shirley Regional School Committee Policy, BEDH, public comment is not a discussion, debate, or dialogue between citizens and the school committee. It is a citizen's opportunity to express an opinion on issues of school committee business. Citizens will have 3 minutes to express their views. Any staff members addressing the committee are reminded of their obligations under state and federal student record law with respect to maintaining the confidentiality of student record information and refraining from disclosing any personally identified information regarding students. With that, do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Cheryl.
Mr. Rosanian?
Here.
Mrs. Bernard? Mr. Quinty?
Here.
Mrs. Reschutz?
Here.
Mr. Ruprecht?
Here.
Ms. Spinn?
Here.
Okay, time for public comment. Of those all in attendance. Is there anybody online? All right. With that, we'll go to the consent agenda. So for approval of the August 20, 2025 regular session minutes for release, as well as the warrants listed for AP warrant 1035, AP warrant 1036, AP warrant 1042, payroll warrant 4, payroll warrant 4.1, payroll warrant 5, payroll warrant 5.1. Is there more? I only have one page. Okay. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there a motion?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can make a motion.
I make a motion. Go ahead.
Sure. I make a motion to consent to our consent agenda.
A second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, new business. Nomination of delegate for Mask November 2025 conference. This is for vote.
So we, every year, have the joint MASS conference with MASC. So it is the Superintendent's Association with the School Committee Association, and we typically send 1 or 2 school committee members as delegates to the conference, and typically Charlie and I join in that conference every year. I know we have already registered, and we are hoping that 1 or more school committee members will be joining us. So,
I'm planning on going. Anybody else, please come.
I just reach out to Michelle so that I can also register to go as well.
Right.
I'm just looking, I brought this with me tonight to see when the delegate thing is, just for, it's usually on.
it's usually on
Do they
Friday.
change it back to Wednesday?
Friday.
Yeah. Last year.
Change it back to Friday? Problem with having it on Wednesday was it was a mess. Yeah, it is on Friday, it's 3:15. So if anybody can even come down for a couple of sessions, or they can come down from the, if they can't stay and come for some of the keynote speakers, it's worth the 2 hours down and the 2 hours back. And this is our chance to be have some input and some training, basically, which doesn't really happen too much else at the school committee. So I always think you never can tell what you're going to get out of it, what you're going to gain from it.
Kevin?
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to represent ASRSD as the delegate and represent our decisions regarding the policies as long as everybody's in favor of that.
Okay, thank you, Erica.
I'm not planning on attending. Do we need to do a nomination and vote?
I think so.
I would nominate Erica Span to be our delegate.
I would second that.
Okay, all those in favor of nominating Miss Erica Span to be our delegate, say aye.
I
Aye. All those
would like
against?
to be in reserve, because we never know what's going to be happening between now and November,
Yep.
the way our world turns.
And I don't think we're limited, right? If others do want to attend?
Oh, no, anybody can all attend.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Erica. Moving on to new business B, superintendent's goals for the 25-26 school year.
Thank you.
Dr. Renda.
Before I start in on 2 new goals, I did want to remind the school committee that there is one update for one of last year's goals on co-teaching that I have not have given you the final update on, and I'm simply waiting for MCAS data to be unembargoed because that will be part of that presentation. It will probably be the next school committee meeting where that will be unembargoed, or will it be the one after? You know, should be the next one, first one in October.
Yeah, that's hopefully when we'll do the MCAS presentation.
And I will have Tara Bosick and Brian Olwick will also be at that meeting to give some input because they actually shared that goal with me. With that being said, I'm trying something different and presenting these goals pretty early on. I think this is the earliest I've done it since I started, but we'll jump into it. So, as always, the superintendent's goals represent really are aligned with our strategic plan, and they look at our students as a whole person, not just someone who we're trying to teach academics to. The 2 goals represent how we're going to help some of our neediest students with academics and also make sure that we are offering the mental health support that our students need. Really what I'm trying to do, what we're trying to do, is enhance our student support systems so that we can make sure that no child is falling excuse me. What we're trying, I'm not sure what happened there. What we're trying to do is make sure that no one slips between the cracks. We are in a pretty good place for our Tier 1 academics in both math and ELA, K to 12. Our messaging to our teachers this year was that no huge changes. We need to refine what we're doing, identify what's working well, and try to increase that, and identify what's not working so well and tweak it. So where we're going to spend our attention is on students that Tier 1 isn't enough for, or that an enhanced Tier 1 could probably help a little bit more. And we'll see if this powers on here. So excuse my reading, but I will read just the beginning of the goal. So SMART Goal 1 is student identification and intervention and tracking. By June 2026, the superintendent will lead the development and implementation of a district-wide process for identifying students whose needs are not fully met through Tier 1 supports and for assigning appropriate action plans at either the classroom, enhanced Tier 1 level, or Tier 2 level. So we started this work really this summer, really last year, but the summer during the leadership retreat, we introduced this to the leadership team about how we are going to find systems to make sure we are identifying students who aren't having their needs met in Tier 1. We already have a lot of these systems in place. in different pockets throughout the district, but it's not one cohesive plan yet. It really needs to be. There's been some great work that has already happened in some of the schools for this. And throughout this year, we'll be giving you updates of how we're doing this, and you're going to hear a lot of things that you've heard before. But what we're hoping to do is to put this into a plan so it becomes institutionalized. So if a principal such as Beth Lewis leaves for a different position, all of the great work that she has done at Laura White doesn't go away. And I'm using Beth as a clear example. For having done a lot of great things at that school, we want to make sure that all the good things stay in place and are still happening. We're lucky enough that she's still in the district and is actually has a great relationship with the new administration over there, so she is helping at times. But we also want to identify what wasn't working for certain students and put into place identifying those students and creating individual action plans to kind of meet that need. And when we get to tier 2, you're going to hear a lot of kind of similar things, but that has to do with mental health instead of academics. We will be engaging with staff on this. That might take more than a year to kind of train staff and get them up to speed in recognizing how to identify these students and creating these plans. But in the meantime, this will really be led by the building administration and facilitated by district administration. What we're looking for is to have, when we say uniform identification process across the schools, so we would like to see Laura White and Page Hilltop have the same identification process, use the same methods for identifying students. We would like to see the middle school and the high school use similar methods. It's going to be slightly different based on grade level. But again, this needs to be memorialized and institutionalized, so this is happening year after year, whether if Charlie leaves, if I leave, if all the principals leave, this type of work is still happening and those students are being identified and are going multiple years without getting the support that they need. So the main part of this is not just simply identifying the student. That actually might be the easiest part. We have tons of different data that we can use for that. In the elementary level, we're talking about DIBELS, STAR, we can use MCAS. Middle school, there is iReady, amongst other teacher-created and curriculum-created data that we can use. But it's what do you do with that? When you're struggling with a student and you know that Tier 1 isn't meeting their needs, what's the next step? How does a teacher get what I would call low-hanging fruit help before they have to go to a formal stat meeting or look for a labeling a student disabled to get that assistance, right? We should be able to intervene and help before that. And we are doing that in many cases, but it sometimes isn't the same from grade level to grade level or school to school, and we're trying to commonize that. We will be reviewing this really weekly with principals during our principal meetings. This will come up, but we already have a schedule for data meetings throughout the year, and we will piggyback on that to check on our identification and action planning and give you more details as some of this will be designed with the schools and with teacher input. Any questions on goal 1?
Joyce?
So how does this, because we've been trying to identify students forever. So is this more institutionalized, so like everybody kind of gets this evaluation and review, not just like, oh, you see somebody having trouble and then you do it, but it's kind of across the board evaluation at the beginning of the year?
Well, it's more than that. So there's a baseline. We do baseline data at the beginning of the year. So that does identify many of the students who need help. Right. But that's just one thing that we're taking into consideration. One of the things that doesn't get taken into consideration enough is the teacher observation and the teacher struggling to meet the kids' needs. So we could have a student whose baseline is at grade level at the beginning of the year testing, but the teacher is noticing that he or she is not getting, the student's not getting the progression that they would like to have, and the teacher is trying everything in their bag of tricks to try to meet that kid's need. Really, we have that mechanism now. It's not being utilized the way that it should, hence why we're trying to institutionalize it. We have what we call an academic assistance team. It's a simple Google form. It's 3 questions, name, grade, and what's the issue. And that is supposed to trigger a meeting with the teacher and whoever that school personnel, assistant principal, principal, and whoever the school personnel that may be able to help. And the reason I say any personnel that may be able to help is it depends on what the issue is. So if it's a reading issue, it could be a reading specialist. It could be Bonnie Faulkner, the principal at Page Hilltop, because she was a reading coach in her past, one of her past jobs, so she would have that expertise. If it's something to do with stamina and writing, and we notice it's a strange pencil grip, we might bring the OT in. What we want is the building administration, when they get that form filled out from the teacher, to utilize whatever that is in their expertise to bring in the person that they would need to help solve this problem at a very low level before we have to bring this to a formal stat, special education evaluation, and possibly label a kid disabled for something that we could take, it could have taken care of at a much lower level. At the same time, if we do eventually have to go to stat, what this does for teachers is it gives them interventions in data of different things that they have tried, so they're not starting from scratch. One of the things that we notice is teachers will often avoid filling out a stat referral because it's a lot of work. They have to come with a ton of data. There used to be a lot of paperwork that needed to be filled out. We did overhaul our DCAP plan to make that simpler. But what this is really the first step to that, where what we want it to be is the first step to that, where we're solving this at a much lower level before we have to go to that. And then for kids who are borderline, the teacher might know the student certainly doesn't need special education or they're not disabled. They're just not having the growth that we want. Sometimes those kids get overlooked. This gives a mechanism for a student who is progressing, but you kind of think they could be progressing more, but they're just not. It gives a mechanism to have that conversation. Like, how can we get Charlie to have really high growth? We know that the intelligence is there. He just isn't working as hard as he needs to be. We know that's not true with this child. But how can we have those conversations for students who we just don't think are at their peak, and we could be doing a little bit better for them?
So how does this interleave, and of course it's not near what this district suffered for many, many years, but how does this interleave with a new student walking in, not necessarily on day one, but transferring from another school? I just talked to a kid at the store who had no idea how to do the math and he's 14.
Yeah.
And but you still get this new kid who just transferred in from God knows where. And so what's our procedure, our evaluation? I mean, half the time, if you were a new kid, you just got thrown into the classroom and, rise
Sure.
or fall.
So we have a new kid who enters the district. We would do a request of records and get their cumulative folder. Hopefully that is coming to us with a whole slew of information. It should come with the district, their internal data, so they're probably using something like iReady or STAR.
That's if we're fortunate enough to have kids who are coming from our local area. This particular kid was homeschooled.
So we'd have to do a benchmark. So there are
Yeah.
some assessments we would have to.
But we do that before we just throw them raw into a classroom.
Well, no, they would be put into a classroom and then we would do that.
Yeah.
So we can't delay enrollment
I'm sure
for
the
that.
percentage is pretty low.
Yeah, there's not too many
Days.
kids coming in who we don't have any data on. I mean, even for students when we had the immigrant shelter, we even had some data on those kids coming in. So
Right.
it's rare that we don't have any, but if we have to, we would do a benchmark, and we would do a benchmark of different internal
Does that
assessments that
automatically
we
trigger
have.
then that this kid better be supported so they can continue on and organize for it?
Well, we're not going to, when a student is just coming in, we're not going to just kind of put them into interventions. We're going to.
No, not necessarily
We're going to wait.
interventions, but supports.
Sure, we're going to wait a little while. We're going to give our internal assessments and get that feedback. We're going to have the teacher work with the student. And after 10 to 15 days, that teacher's going to have a pretty good idea of what's going on.
So fairly soon.
Yeah, it happens pretty quick. But these types of meetings and this type of input could really be beneficial to both kids that have been in the district, but also newer kids. And there's so many assessments that we can give to kind of get that baseline information now that we would have a pretty good profile relatively quickly.
So, because there's a lot of new housing being built in both towns, and this is going to be an influx. Oh yeah, there's not going to be kids. There's going to be kids. And so I think you're going to see more as these towns are being pounded upon and expanded, that this is not something that you can say, oh, we'll handle that.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's an extra staff person who kind of keeps an eye on that kid and, you know, someone they can talk to and get to know.
Yeah, and the best source of information for us on students is either the parent, but the prior school. If it's homeschooled, there isn't, but you know, if they were truly homeschooled, the parent should have some say about what that child can and can't do. But we typically can get any information that we need for prior schools. We had this happen with a local district just this week. Last week I got a phone call, and there was a student who should have been entering first grade. Their enrollment had put the kid in second grade because of their age. It didn't seem right to the school. They called. It took about 2 seconds to look up in Aspen about what grade the student was in last year, and so they were able to make that switch very quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, similar things can happen here. Yeah.
I just think it's going to be, you know, more than what we've seen before. So the acceptance grew.
Well, typically when students start after the first of the year, most of the time the need is greater.
I
Not
think
always.
Jim,
Yeah, just if you could just speak briefly on it. I mean,
Thank you.
in elementary school, you try to establish the lanes people are in, right? You're starting from all over the place and you try to get them in lanes and they sort of get their support through that. And it's kind of really set up for that. And then if you could just speak to the transition from elementary to middle school and then middle school to high school, how that baton somehow gets passed, especially for students who are like doing okay, but the whole vibe and the way the system runs is radically different. And how you integrate that, is it just like a teacher witchcraft thing that you just sort of feel it? I mean, it's hard to get that kind of information across lines.
Yeah, you're kind of hitting the nail on the head with one of the reasons that this is the goal. So we've struggled with transitions. Especially transition from 5th to 6th, and then from 8th grade to high school. The special ed department has actually put in a new system as of last year where the teachers meet and share a lot of that information. But it's not as polished as it needs to be, but it will be. And that's one of the reasons that we're doing this, because we have the academic assistance team where teachers can ask for that meeting now. We have the ASRSD team where we're talking about kids' mental health and social emotional issues, but they're not as polished as they should be after 3 years, right? The transition teams aren't as polished as they should be. So we took the time to overhaul the TCAP last year, and I view these two goals as that kind of last step to really have this polish and train the teachers so that everybody knows the system. Everybody, if you're struggling with a student, whether it's academic or mental health, what do you do? What is your next step? So that you don't have to ask for a full special ed evaluation. Why are we waiting until October to realize that a student who transitioned from one of our elementary schools into the middle school needed to sit at the front of the room in order to see the board? Or, I mean, that's such a basic one.
Yeah.
That would probably be on a 504, but these are some of the things that have happened where unless someone picks up the phone and makes that phone call, that information isn't shared.
I think we can all think back that, I mean, some of the kids that we knew in 8th grade that were like high flyers, and then they got destroyed. I mean, it was a honking mess how they even got out of there, and everything after that just went down. And I mean, if you were that strong in through the 8th grade, and then they clearly had the ability, but they weren't a problem to other people, and they just sort of get rolled along. Those are the people that you kind of, the potential's there, and how do you do that?
Yeah.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, and So it's all kids that we're looking at with this, but one of the things that we're noticing is, we have co-teaching, and we are trying to be as inclusive as possible, but there's some borderline kids, right, who probably aren't getting the attention from us that they should in order to make that leap to go from, a kid who does pretty well in school, A's and B's, where they could be doing really well in school. And they could go from, a community college track, which is a fine track, to a four-year institution or a premier college, or a student who was not thinking any of that. So we're trying to kind of seal up the cracks and make sure that everybody gets that individualized attention and what they need to be as successful as they can be.
Thank you.
In terms of the outcomes, I'm curious if you considered any that were, so it feels very sort of compliance procedure based. I'm curious if you considered any outcomes or indicators that were student outcomes or impact quality. I could see, again,
Yeah.
I tend to be pessimistic when I read goals because I manage a large team who sometimes sets bad goals for themselves. And I think about it would be possible for you to have 100% compliance and have plans where, again, 90% of identified students, but are those plans quality? What does it mean for the students? And so as you are thinking about these outcomes, are there
Key performance indicators?
what are the key results that would signal not only do we have a process that people are following, but it's working? And I've got an eye towards our strategic plan ends at the end of this year, and we have a number of student outcomes that we set at the beginning of it. How is this helping sort of close the gap towards those things?
So I would have to agree. What we want this to do is to improve student performance. Trying to put the student performance indicators on, I struggled with that a bit, right? Because I was having a difficult time figuring out how I would attribute it simply to these goals, right?
Sure. And they're going to be lagging, right? That's the other problem. So that's where I'm what are the ways that you might think about quality or think about the not just, and again, a pessimistic view of this, it's you could have 100% compliance and 90% of those students have documented plans, but are we identifying all the students who need to be identified? Mm-hmm. And so I wonder what sort of audits you might consider, or again, I think there's ways to think about the things that you can observe or have reported out on that would not just get at, is there a process that people are following, but is that process leading to a change in, I imagine adult behavior would be more of a leading indicator that you could consider. But even teacher surveys could be, this is brainstorm, but yeah.
Sorry, I'm only thinking because you're brainstorming on those things, one thing that I'm thinking about is if you have those common transitions from elementary to middle school to high school, whenever you do have those children who are struggling, whatever the reason may be. So let's say it seems like there was 3 different areas that you hit, where you had a student who's doing well, who's not doing well. You have a student who's generally struggling, now they're in a new environment. In the last, let's say, 4 years, what have been the common challenges when students are transitioning, using those challenges as an indicator to see how well it's working if you were going to do an audit. That's just where my mind went when Chris was talking. And I don't even know if that's valid, but that's just how I kind of interpreted the information that you were giving.
Well, I can certainly take another crack at some student performance indicators to add to this, right? There's certainly going to be a loose correlation.
Sure, and again, I don't think it necessarily needs to be, but there's something about quality or impact that I think, again, there's a world where we hit the 100%, and then we look at what's happening, we're but it's not actually translating to a change in practice that's meaningful beyond, are we checking the box, right? And so I would just wonder, is there something to balance that? Again, it's important that we check the box, but let's make sure that, and again, as simple as a teacher survey or counselor survey,
we say to each other a lot, is this just going to be compliance-based? Well, I don't have an answer for you right
Yeah,
now, but I
I-
certainly will
Okay.
come back in the next meeting and give some input on that. I mean, we can absolutely tie in student performance.
Can I ask a different way? How do we track if our, the development action plans are being successful?
Well, one of the ways that we will be able to do this, right? So let's say the student, the academic assistance team, it's a simple Google form that someone can fill out and ask for assistance with the student that they're struggling with. We can simply take, excuse me, I got a bit of a cold, you can probably hear it. We can simply take every student who had an academic assistance team filled out on them, right? Look at their beginning of the year, depending on the grade level, iReady, STAR data, DIBELS data, and then look at the intervention, what the intervention plan was, and if it was for reading, very easy. We could take a look at the beginning of the year, end of the year, or mid-year, and give you data on whether or not that plan has been successful. Math, a little bit tougher, but we do have that data with STAR, and some of the work that Mr. Cleary is doing. That would be great. That will work. When we get to goal 2, when we start talking about mental health, that's going to be a little bit more difficult to report out on, but we can look at things like attendance for those students. We can look at things, discipline referrals, visits to the counselor, visits to the nurse. It's basically work avoidance or interventions, mental health interventions needed. So we can track that. And then that can all be tied to MCAS testing. Whether or not, that's not a necessary clean correlation, but it will certainly give us an indication if 90% of the students who had an action plan on an academic assistance team were either proficient or partially meeting standards as compared to other students who weren't meeting standards and none of them were on the act, like that would be incredible, and that's probably not going to happen. But if everyone who was not meeting standards, none of those kids had an academic assistance team form filled out on them, that would be a pretty clear indication that works. So, I mean, roughly we could look at that data and interpret that, give you some outcomes such as that. I'm sure there's some other ways we can come up with.
So I had,
go ahead.
Similar question, speaking of being pessimistic. So 90% is a high bar. I mean, that is, but I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Do you feel that's an improvement over where, because that's 90% of identified. So if there are 10% of identified students that need a documented action plan and they don't have one, why is that, right? Is it parents not responding? Is it, you said teachers have to fill out a whole bunch of, like, why are...
Well, with this, teachers wouldn't have to fill out a whole bunch of, with the new, what we're trying to do. Part of, I mean, I almost never go 100%, but the reason that would be 90s, parents could refuse it depending on what the action plan is, but I mean, we could certainly make that higher. I don't know. I thought we could hit 90%. I thought actually I was being ambitious with that. There are always some barriers as to why we wouldn't be able to implement an intervention.
Yeah, and that may be.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying you...
So some of it too could be that we're asking the kid at times, we could ask for the student to be dropped off before school, get off the bus, go right to the teacher's room, right? Like, things like that. Sometimes parents will say no to. Yeah. We have things like My Path and some online interventions that we might assign or ask to be done for homework so that it supplements the classwork and not replacing it, so they're getting that direct instruction from a teacher. Sometimes that is difficult to, we can't enforce that, right? So we can ask for it. Most parents say yes to that without hesitation, especially if we're supplying the Chromebook and the account and the login. And usually it's very, it's not a heavy lift for parents because the kid's basically logging on and doing that intervention at home. It's like, if you think about it in baseball terms, it's like getting an extra at-bat at no cost to any other teammates or class time. So that's kind of why we went with like the 90%, just because You can almost never be 100% with that.
Yep.
So in terms of just general orientation to tier 2, I think my general frame of reference has been like, yes, tier 2 instruction and supports can be something that are applied sort of universally for a student when they're in a classroom for like the year. It also is something that could be very topical. We are in 5th grade, we're working on multiplying mixed numbers, and we know that Johnny had a hard time with fractions in the previous unit, so they get like some extra tier 2 support when we are moving on to like this next unit. Is that second example of Johnny struggling with, or like is likely to struggle with multiplying mixed numbers, so we're going to do something a little different for Johnny and a couple other kids when we do like the warm-up in this next unit? Is that part of this? Okay.
Yeah.
And so you're imagining in that instance a teacher is similarly filling out a Google form, hey, I'm going to do this like breakout group with these 5 kids. Like what is,
I don't even want the teacher filling out a Google form for that.
Okay.
I want the teacher just doing that.
great, okay.
Yeah.
That was my assumption, so that's where I was like, are we tracking that? Is
Yeah.
that this is for the Johnny can't see
This
the
is
board.
like I've tried that.
Got it.
And it's still not working for John, and I don't know why.
Got it.
So I'm a veteran teacher. I know most of the levers to pull. I'm stumped with Johnny, and I need a little bit of extra help, but I really don't want to do a stat because I don't think he needs a stat.
Got it.
Who do I talk to about getting this?
Okay.
You know, and we're trying to make it as streamlined as possible so that help can happen for Johnny within like 48 hours.
Great.
Like,
Okay.
It's ambitious, right?
Yeah.
But there's not enough of that. There's not enough of, hey, how can I talk to the 3rd grade teacher who crushes it every year with this
Yeah.
standard? I know I teach 2nd grade, I know I teach 4th grade, but I think if I can go in and talk to her or watch her do this, maybe I can take that back to my classroom and help,
Okay.
you know, Johnny and Susie.
I was just imagining a world where every time teachers did pull-out groups, they need to fill out a form and have a meeting and
no.
document a plan
We're
and
trying
the
to-
impact that would have. I was like,
Yeah, we're trying to do the exact
I was
opposite.
assuming
actually.
that was not the
Yeah.
intent, and I was like I was like, okay, let me just ask this question, which I'm making an assumption, but let me not make it.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because it's the opposite
Opposite,
direction. We're trying to get away from you have to fill out these 18 different forms to talk to somebody to get some help. Like, not every kid needs to be in special ed. Like, it doesn't, we do not have to go that route. Some kids do, and for those kids, that's fine, and we're going to, you know, do the testing and make sure that is a good IEP, but for some kids, they just need that intervention or that support for a moment in time, and we typically don't offer them that.
How does our class size meld
You
in
know,
with this?
I haven't checked, but our class size, I don't believe, is out of whack. You could pull that up?
Because if I see a class size that's got,
Across elementary.
just on elementary to
Yeah.
start with, but then, and when we talk about this, and we're talking about K through 6, 5, what are we doing, 5? But then when we get to middle school, with all those other problems, how well does this fit in? Okay, so Bill really does good here with numbers, but he gets over here to social studies and nobody's giving him, he's a bright, why do I say he? Because I had all boys. Sorry, the student. Then we get to middle school. Now, how much collaboration to get to these goals where you're saying, you're seeing the evaluation that my intelligence doesn't do math.
Well, it's simpler, you're right? It's simpler in the elementary school, it's the same teacher
Yeah,
for the
same
majority of the
teacher.
day, right? So that
Seeing
teacher
them
knows.
all day and,
Yeah.
or maybe most of the day, and
The,
that teacher knows, and they can ask another teacher, how did you handle him last year in 2nd grade? Because
Yeah.
we're in the same building.
well, there are some advantages actually when it comes to middle school, right? Middle school works in teams, and the teams have all the same kids. And those teams meet, and they will have these discussions and talk about kids. And it's not rare that a student does really well with one teacher and then struggles with a different teacher, right? So we're trying to form mechanisms for those conversations to happen and that assistance to happen from teacher to teacher and for maybe even grade level to grade level. So if the form gets filled out and Principal Ulrich knows, hey, this student does really well with Mr. Plunkett, that's terrible with Mr. Renda. Why? Right? So we can either get them together and try to figure that out. Typically, what is probably going to happen is the principal's going to have a conversation with Mr. Plunkett. Hey, what's going on with Johnny? He does great in your classroom. What's going on? You're going to get that insight. And hopefully, either that's going to be shared through the principal with the other teacher, or what I would like to happen is the teachers to get together and say, hey, here's what I've learned about this student. And
You can pick on
here's how you can make him successful. Right? So we're trying to create avenues for that work to happen.
Okay, so now we get to high school.
Mhm.
What's happening?
Well, what's happening right now for students in high school that are struggling is the student success plans. Now, the only problem with that is a student success plan is triggered when a student is in danger of failing. So that is when they have an average of 65 or lower for, is it 3 consecutive days? 3 consecutive days. That would trigger a phone call home with a parent, right? And the creation of a success plan. Not all success plans are created equally. Some are absolutely phenomenal, and some could be improved. But some of them are very simple too. The conversation could happen with the parent, and the parent could let the teacher know that the student has been working their part-time job for the last three or 4 nights until 10 o'clock and hasn't had any time to do homework. Now, if I'm the parent, I'm getting this phone call when my kid has been working for 3 nights for 6 or 7 hours after school, and the grades are already slipping in 3 days. I'm probably going to make their work schedule be altered, right? So that could be the plan. It could be something that simple. But that
It does happen.
it does happen. But the problem with that isn't triggered until there's already a deficit. Now, hopefully, what teachers will do if they notice grades starting to slip from a B, they had an 85, it's down to an 81, it's down to a 76. Hopefully what we'll see is them fill out that form so somebody gets eyes on this student, and that we can hopefully figure out what's going on before they're in danger of failing. But some of this needs to be designed with the teachers too,
Sure.
especially at the high school. It is, I would think, it's going to be the most difficult at this level, at the high school level.
But maybe the most important.
Might be. Yeah, might be. Okay.
Anything else?
I mean, it's so easy for a kid to slip.
Yeah, it happens all the time. So for goal 2, it's similar in ways. We're trying to put in these systems for mental health, which I feel like I've been trying to do for the past 5 years. We are doing lots of great things for students' mental health in this district. I would not call it a polished, cohesive system yet. I have applied, as well as 2 adjustment counselors. We're hoping to get possibly 1 more to the School Mental Health Leadership Institute. So we will be, or at least I believe I will be participating. I'm hoping they will be participating in it too. They have to be accepted. I think they have a great chance. This is an opportunity to work with Massachusetts Partnership for Youth to create the system, to get the training on how to create the system. This work is going to be led by John Crocker, who does this work out of Methuen. I think it's safe to say that they probably have the best system in the state. If you ever have the opportunity at MASC or any other workshops for school community members and John Crocker is presenting, I highly recommend you attend it. He's brilliant when it comes to this. So what we're trying to do is use this Leadership Institute to create our framework. What we want to be able to do, and again, we'll throw some student outcomes on this, because we don't have any yet. It's just the completion of the institute. But what we want is a mental health framework completed by March, right? So we want to institutionalize the work that we're doing and have it in a framework that makes sense, so that it's step by step by step. We do have the SSG meetings happening at all the schools. I think that's the most important. I've said this before. I'm going to keep saying it. It's the most important meeting that happens in every school every week, when we're talking about frequent flyers, heavy hitters, students who are in crisis, and how, as a school and a community, we can assist with that. It doesn't necessarily happen as effectively in some places as others, but what I think is the biggest shame is at times there are resources that one school knows about and is using that another school might not and isn't using, and that's not fair to our students. If we have good resources that are working for some kids, we should be able to translate that to all of our students. So we need to get that fixed. Currently, we are already accepting Google referrals for this. And those meetings they've happened every week since school has started. But what we don't have, and what actually Cynthia Esalonis is the curriculum leader this year for the school counselors, one of the things that they're going to be doing is a needs assessment and an inventory. So what are we doing and what do you need? And a lot of that work will be used when we're developing this plan with MPY and the Leadership Institute. And I am way off of my presentation here.
That's fine.
Okay. So we're hoping to present that to you through June, in June, but we will be tracking and collecting this data. We'll give you updates as that happens. We will absolutely be using technology to collect data on this. We do a universal screener with our students twice a year. That will be used to identify some of these students in need and create plans for them. Those action plans have already been happening. And typically we run these plans for 6 to 8 weeks with kids. And what we hope to do is kind of eliminate students from that SSG meeting, right? So we want to get to the point where we don't have to check in with these kids anymore because their needs are being met. And again, we can look at student attendance, discipline referrals, nurse visits, amongst other indicators. We survey our students at the end of every year. That survey can actually also be used for this effectiveness. Any questions on this goal? I feel like a lot of it was kind of covered in the other questions. Yes.
So when you say designated staff will complete the necessary requirements, how many people is that? Is that across the whole?
Right now, that's me.
Is that across all the schools?
It is across all levels but the high school.
Okay.
As of right now, where we are going to try to get a high school representative. We have an elementary adjustment counselor, and we have a middle school adjustment counselor that are going to attend. Either Tara Bozic or Kristen Campione will also attend, and I will be attending. But a lot of this work will be done with the school counselors during.
So this is
during
out
meetings.
of special education, but
It's not. It's just there. A lot of the students. A lot of the students in special education will benefit from this. So, and it's a high interest for both Kristen and Tara. So, we always welcome
sure.
more people to the team.
So this doesn't generally drop down into regular counselors, but that has to be part of their training to start.
No, it absolutely does. So
Yeah.
the school adjustment counselors are the regular counselors for the most part. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's their school level.
Just understanding
Yeah.
the structure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
One question, I don't know if it's part of goal 1 or goal 2. So like one thing that's been a focus for the last 2 years, I have not gone back far enough to know it's been longer than 2 years, but community engagement has been a focus of yours in your goals. And I think a question I have is between goal 1, goal 2, is there a like engagement, involvement of families that is explicitly part of the goals or implementation? I don't want to shoehorn anything in, but that feels like something that is notably absent given focus in past years, and so I don't want to add more goals if we don't need to, but I just wonder if there's implicitly, or I heard you explicitly talk about families potentially being part of goal 1, but I just wonder if there's a way that you're thinking about family community engagement in either or both these goals as like outcomes
Well,
indicators.
family engagement, as far as when we're creating the plans or implementing a plan, a family's going to be notified and part of that process. But they're really, I do not consider that as part of this. It will certainly be communicated out that we're doing this work. But the work as a whole isn't new.
Yeah.
It's more of kind of organizing a lot of the past work that we've done. So the tiered system of support, I've been talking about a tiered system of social emotional support since day one here.
Right.
I gave up the reins of that for a couple of years. And that was extremely frustrating for me. I don't think I really grabbed it back until this goal, right?
Yeah, okay.
So we've had some personnel changes, and so this is like probably the second, maybe second and a half attempt to kind of organize this. I would say the first two didn't work. But getting back to the community engagement, so it's not. It certainly isn't part of these two goals.
Yeah.
Now, we can, that, just because it's not necessarily a labeled goal, which it can be, and in fact, if I need to add a goal after my evaluation, I will certainly do that based on the evaluation. It typically, the last couple of years, has been communication.
Yeah.
So we can look at that, but we can absolutely look at a way to keep parents updated with the progression of this work too.
Yeah. It just
In
was like-
appropriate ways.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to shoehorn anything in. I don't want to add goals that aren't needed. It was just like, again, I feel like it's been a theme since you've come to the district, and it felt notably absent. And so, again, not saying that it is a crisis, and it felt like, again, a shift from past goals.
I mean, communication it can always improve. Even when it's really good, it can always improve. And I'm not saying we're at the point where it's really good. I think it has improved, but we could do better. Whether it's adding a communication plan for parents and updates of this, happy to do that, or adding a community outreach goal, we can certainly do that too.
I was actually just going to give you a resource, and I can always email it to you as well. So there's a tool that we use in inpatient and acute care psych. So what it does is, it assesses the patient coming in the door during admission. It's called it says mindfulness something tool, and I have to look it up so that I can get that middle word. But basically, in what you're doing, so we'll just stick with mental health now, but I'm pretty sure you could probably adapt it to the other version, where there's an assessment of the patient coming in. Then from there, after the patient has been in the facility for a total of 3 days, then you're saying, okay, here's our current assessment after 3 days. The patient also fills out, and in the case of adolescents and children, the parents also fill out a survey where it's, do I feel all my needs have been communicated? Have I been heard? Is there anything else, that could be done? So it's actually doing both steps in one in this formalized tool, and it is, I know it's nationally recognized and that it's validated. I just can't remember the name, but I could give it to you. So that way it's kind of coming together with what Chris is saying, so that you're not having to rework another goal, and you'll consistently have the data because it'll be there because it's naturally in that form, and then you can just move forward with it.
I'd love to see it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions on goal 2? So I see we have a call for a vote. Do you want to move to a vote now, or was there anything around the KPIs that?
Why don't I, if you don't mind, why don't I look at how I can put some student outcome in these two goals and bring them back to the next meeting?
Okay, absolutely.
And I think I kind of agree with Chris, is that my feeling here was that with the students and not coordinating in with the parents on this, and that's what you always did, was the communication, which was super. If that, this seemed leaving that out. So, and if we don't do that, then it's nice that we're trying to spot the kids. But then when we spot the kids and we don't say to the parents, this is what we're doing for your kid, I think is that what we're saying? Did I say that wrong? Is that what we're trying to get to? Is that what Chris was trying to get to?
I'm not sure. To be honest with you, I'm not sure.
That could be part of it.
Yeah.
Now, parents would be part of
I know
the
we
decision-making process, but I think it was more a general or overview of communication of what is happening, but not necessarily individual students are always
Right.
going to be a conversation with parents and teachers and administrators, right? But the system itself can be communicated to the masses, whether
Yeah.
their child is in need of it
And
or
then
not.
they may initiate like, I don't see what I think my kid,
I think you just hit a good point.
Yeah.
A parent should probably be able to
if they
institute
feel
an
free
academic assistance.
to initiate
Okay.
and say, Billy just isn't reacting at home the way I think he should in school. Is that part of it?
It wasn't, but that's a really good idea.
Could it be triggered? Like, could
I mean, that's something that's absolutely missing from this. And I think we might take it for granted
I
that
guess
parents
that's
would
right,
just
because
call
you've
and ask
slammed
for
that
help.
into our heads for the last 4 years. Now you have to stick with
But
it.
that should absolutely be part of this, yeah.
All right, so we will move the vote to, I think, our next school committee meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
Next order of new business is, staying with you, Dr. Renda, the superintendent's report.
So not a lot on the superintendent's report. We did receive news about the ASAF impact grant. I think if you remember, they had actually granted us really 2 impact grants this year. One was for some books at the elementary level that Mr. Cleary had presented and was very quickly approved. He was very concise, did a great job presenting. And then we changed it up a little bit when we had every school and every department present an impact grant idea. So there were many choices. And ultimately, what ASAF decided to go with was a ACE ABA software system, which will benefit 20 of our students in SLC programs. And that's probably about, or it could be another specialized program. And this is a way to really individualize and create lesson plans on academics, communication, social skills, and possibly transition to adulthood if we have any students at the high school level that are going to use that. It has targeted assessments, there's behavior support tools, there's real-time data tracking. This is something that Kristen Campione had used in a different district, and teachers really loved it. We had a teacher over at Laura White go and visit one of those schools and really wanted to use this program. So we're really looking at this as a pilot for this year, and hopefully if this works well, we will prioritize this in our budget so that we can move forward with this. They have asked that we keep them updated throughout the year and present some of the results at the end of the year. So I think what we're going to do is prepare that for a school committee and invite them to view that, because I think that will be great information for everyone, especially in the school committee as well as ASAF. If they can't come to the school committee meeting, we'd be happy to go to one of their meetings and present what we present to school committee. We're excited about this. This is some of our neediest kids. We think this might have a fairly big impact, and it's really a great way that we can pilot this without getting rid of something else in our special education budget. We're hoping it replaces something as of next year. But if not, we still appreciate the opportunity to give it a shot and to pilot it at what's not costing the district anything. Any questions on that? As always, ASF is extremely generous, and we're hoping to continue to kind of present the impact ideas this way that we did this past year. I think one of the things that we are going to do is open up ideas to the teaching staff, and then we will curate that, kind of like we did with the school administration and directors. But you know, this came really out of Mrs. Chase really thinking this program could make a big difference. And if you have ever seen her teach, you would see why we thought this was a good idea. She's fantastic. So there's been some discussion on, if there are no questions, I'll move on. There's been some discussions and some confusion about PSATs. Mr. Christie and I have talked about how, since I believe Charlie had told me this morning that it was actually pre-COVID. I had heard that it was since COVID that the district has been paying for PSATs for all of our students to participate. So we were looking at some ways that we could possibly do some cost savings in this. Either having students pay for the PSATs. This is a fairly common practice in some other districts. There are districts that foot the bill. But one of the things that we were looking at was trying to do some cost sharing with surrounding districts. We had reached out to a couple in really hopes that we would host it 1 year and kind of take on the cost of hosting 1 year, and then the following year they would host and take on the cost of hosting. We haven't reached an agreement with anyone yet, but we're still looking at that. We are absolutely having the PSATs. They will take place here on October 27th, and we are really bringing this to school committee for a bit of a discussion on how you feel on, it costs us somewhere between $5,000 and $8,000 a year to kind of cover the cost of PSATs. And we're curious your thoughts on us continuing to do that or to pass this some of this cost on to parents.
Every student takes this test, right? So this is part.
Every student has the opportunity. Every student has the
part of the
opportunity to
curriculum?
take the test. Yeah, currently, the way that we currently do this, I can't tell you that 100% of the students take the test. Some students could be out and purposely miss the test and miss the makeup, but every student, 100% of the students have the opportunity to take it. We're probably pretty close to 100% participation.
And that's in,
It's not 100%.
That's in junior year or sophomore year?
Typically, definitely junior year, it can be sophomore and junior year.
So, but the kids take it, they only take it 1 year, right? They don't take it sophomore and then take it again junior, or do they? And it's based on the number of students taking it, or do we just enter our full population as the?
We've offered it to our juniors. The PSAT can be taken your sophomore or junior year, though. Yeah.
It's generally the juniors.
Yeah.
So I guess to balance out the question, with trying to look at cost savings, one of the things that I'm thinking of off the top of my head, I mean, it's great that we offer it, that we're paying for it, but I'm wondering if we do it based upon registration, like as the first step, kind of stepping away from cost if hosting doesn't work, right? I would think they have to sign up by a particular time. That way we're focusing on students who are invested in taking the SATs. But Joyce actually just had a great question in that when we pay for the cost of the SATs, are we prepaying for every student, or do we end up only paying for the students that take it?
I believe we only pay for the students who register.
Okay.
Register for it.
For
So I
register.
think if you register and you don't show up, I think we're still paying
You're
that
still-
cost. I believe.
Okay. Okay. So that actually doesn't alleviate the cost then, because we would still pay the same amount either way. I mean,
Now, is it a gross cost, or do we cost?
it's
Is
per,
that what you're
it's per,
asking? It's
no,
per
it's,
student?
it's per student.
Per test?
Right. So when the students register, that's when we're paying. So my suggestion doesn't work because we'd still be paying the same amount no matter what. So I'm all set.
The $8,000 for the PSAT on the high end, how much of that cost is what goes to College Board? How much of it is hiring proctor, right? Like all, and what costs would we actually pass on to families, right? Like, if I Google right now, how much does a PSAT cost? They'll tell me $18 a kid. I know we don't have the hundreds of students to make up that, like 8,000 divided by 18 is more than the students we have in this building. And so like, what are the drivers of those costs, and which of those costs would we envision passing on to families?
We pay for the proctors,
Oh, yeah.
and then the testing, we have in the past paid for it. And most recently, I believe we had some AP money left over that we used to
Yeah.
help. But we pay the invoice for the college board.
College board.
Because I'm imagining even if we had the entire junior class take it and some sophomores, we'd be in the like probably under 2,000, around 2,000 in fees. So I'm like, well, what's the difference? And so it's all those other things. And so when we're looking at the two options, like the cost sharing, the student paid model, so it seems like we'd be passing on like the $18. We wouldn't be trying to make up the like extra proctoring fees. Is that?
I don't know how we would, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it would just, yeah.
So again, for this group, like, we're not actually thinking about saving $8,000. It's
Right.
the like, there's still fees no matter what that we would incur.
Right.
And there probably is the opportunity to do both of these, right? Like, we could both host
Right.
to save on proctoring and ask families. I mean,
Do other schools want to come in and be part of it?
Right. That's what
Sort of the
Well,
overhead.
the problem with
Because the overhead's going to stay
Yeah.
the same.
Well, you're right, the proctoring is the proctoring, so that's why we were trying to split it with another school. So whether or not, I mean, Charlie, do you know if there's a certain number of students if you need additional proctors?
I don't know what the number is, but typically classrooms are about 20 kids a room with a proctor, potentially 2. So you're paying them at an hourly rate to proctor on a Saturday.
Right, so right now
So-
we're having anywhere between 5 and 10 proctors, probably go on the lower end.
Yeah, I mean, I'll assume 100 kids. I don't have the numbers in front of me.
Right.
So I'll assume
Yeah.
100 kids are going to take the test.
but
Do we
if
have-
we were to try to cost share, we have Littleton come in, we still have the same number of proctors for Air Shirley. Right, like, the number of proctors doesn't actually change. I mean, maybe marginally, maybe instead of having maybe half a class is now going to have some Littleton, right? So it's actually,
But then the site would incur the cost.
Right.
for
so
that
it's just
year.
like, so we
So
would
we'll
have
just-
higher
we'll
costs.
take the
So
cost
we
for
would
it.
assume Littleton
Is
if
that
we
how
were
you-
hosting.
That's how you interpret
That's,
it.
that's how we
Right.
interpret it.
So it'd be like 1 year we would host, the next year somebody else would host.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they would incur the cost for the proctor, they would incur the cost for ordering the exams, could register,
So
attend that
some years
school.
we'd have lower costs, other years we would have higher.
Right.
And if we're partnering with Littleton where they have more students.
I was
on
going
the
to say,
off
it
year,
behooves us
we would
to
be-
go to a smaller school.
Right. Well, here's the other thing that I'm thinking about. Now, again, this is just a current time frame, right now, and I know it's being assessed every year. But how many students are actually taking the SATs, because colleges are waiving that right now?
That's
So are
coming
we
back.
incurring?
It's coming back,
That's why I said I know that's why I'm kind of like
yeah.
in a weird space, because we know this is an anomaly.
We
Yeah.
want students taking PSATs and SATs, 100%. Yeah, it's, even the schools that don't require it, if you do well, you should report your scores.
Volunteer.
Right.
Because that's going to
And
help.
there's scholarship, I mean,
There is scholarships attached to it.
can,
More kids than we do.
how much money are we subsidizing for athletics annually?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's one of the reasons we brought this up, right? It's because we did just have a huge increase. We pretty much doubled the user fee. Right? Now, we're perfectly fine with incurring this cost, but when I say we were talking about everything,
Yeah.
we were talking.
No,
talking
yeah,
about
that's,
everything.
yeah, I appreciate that we're having the conversation, and there's like, of the things I think the schools should try to absorb as much of it, like, I would not want to, there's not a lot of incentives for kids to come in on a Saturday to take
Right.
the test. And if we want to, like, and if there's any barrier to like entry, I would like, this is the place I'd want to reduce the barriers to entry as much as possible.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joyce, I keep asking questions while
It's
you're
all right.
politely
No.
raising your hand.
I can wait. I don't have a problem.
Yeah, I'd be looking, I mean, overall, just sooner or later you have to pick something like that. I'd be looking to recover about half the cost. I mean, the parents, so you're looking at probably, 40 to 50 bucks to take the test to cover half the cost of what you're gonna go through. A lot of these kids, you look at education after high school, and when they start getting the first application fees and the tuition fees and the rest of that, the 50 bucks is not going to be a thing anymore. And maybe it's a little bit of training to get used to what this is going to cost. It also adds some gravity to it because there's clearly value, educational value in getting used to this type of test taking. Mm-hmm. And I think that, PSAT and MSQT is a good place to start. So I don't, and I think we've always, as a district, been very good, not just athletics, but in other things, that if there's a true need, we find a way to cover students so they can get it done. But overall, putting whatever process we come up with, I'd like to at least get that, half of that. The rest of it, I don't mind paying for.
My knee-jerk reaction here, and I'm always like, how much money is that? Is that this is an educational thing. And this is important that any student who comes and takes this test, and it should be encouraged, would say, oh, I did pretty good at that. Maybe I can go further. And it's educational because then just learning taking tests, right? And without saying you're going to be sent off to Never Never Land, so I think they're more relaxed with it, and it's a learning thing. So I think this is, to me, it's like, yeah, this is part of their education. This isn't a separate thing. This is part of our curriculum.
So you're saying to maintain the cost, right? Is that what you're saying?
Pardon?
You're saying maintain the
Yeah,
cost as
I mean,
is.
if we have to
I'm
do it,
just
we have to do
asking
it.
to make sure.
It's like, that people go, oh, no, you're not doing that. It's on Saturday, and I got to pay for it. You're not doing that. Because you're not going to go there anyway. Well, maybe they will go there. Who knows? We're still presenting opportunities. Knee-jerk. Yes?
Yeah, well,
Oh, yeah.
there is the potential for many conversations like this year, with some of the changes that we think are going to happen with the entitlement grants. It should be not just for Air Shirley, for the entire country. It should be a rather interesting budget season coming up, and we will try to continue with what we've been trying to do and be very transparent and kind of very forward with some of the challenges that are going to take place. And this is actually probably a very low-hanging fruit preview of some of the discussions that we're hoping to have with the school committee this year.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Joyce?
Bill, what is, so just as a history thing, because I don't ever remember seeing this broken out, 5,000 to 8,000, what is the median number on that we usually incur? I bet we don't get to 8,000 very often, right?
I believe it's like 200 per student per test, around there.
So the fee and the proctor cost and turning on the lights, I mean, are we considering the whole cost here? We have a janitor in the building anyway on Saturday. I assume this is only like 3 hours or something. AM.
200 per student per test, that'd be about
Yeah,
$20,000?
20,000.
Yeah.
Or are we talking AP? Is that everything? Is that every AP test and every?
I think just for the PSATs.
That doesn't work.
I could look it up and report back.
That'd be great. I got a very different figure from Principal Christie.
Higher?
No, between 5 to 8, depending on the year. So if it's
Okay.
at 20, my concern of,
Yeah.
it's
It's a
just
whole
one
different
option.
discussion. Yeah.
Well, but it's an educational thing. It's not just a party.
Yep.
It's an experience.
We're
that's
pinching
important.
pennies a little bit here, but it is absolutely important for kids to take this test. And we want as many kids participating as possible.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to downplay that at all.
So hopefully, I'm not out of line and you guys can say it, I don't mind. But I do think, kind of with what you're saying preemptively, saying that we're really going to be looking at budget, we're going to be looking at the value of things. I personally, and then I'll say it's my personal opinion and then ask a question, I would really like to see that as these things are being thought about, introduced, talked about, that if it is prior to one of your presentations, anyone that is concerned goes through the proper channels before reaching out or jumping ahead, so that we don't have like a flurry of confusion before something is put out there. I can appreciate everybody is always going to be passionate about different things, and that's great. And we're here to hear from anyone that is concerned, but I also want to give the administrative team the respect of being able to present what they're doing and why they're doing, as opposed to hearsay or personal opinions or whatever else is happening, because we all know this is going to be, there are going to be some hot topics that come out for whatever reason for any person, and that's totally okay. I just hope that we can fall back on our process and our procedure so that every conversation can be made with clarity and understanding. That's one, I kind of wanted to put that out there, and then reiterate currently what is our process. Like, we know we get our emails, right, and we respond back to them, but usually I think what we've always done is we'll say, okay, you can reach out to so-and-so or have you know what I mean? So I just want to we've done a great job in communicating throughout the years, and I think just kind of putting that reminder out there so that we can continue to have some really good conversations. Does that make sense? Am I kind of landing the plane there? No? It doesn't? Yeah.
Are you asking, so we got an email from a parent. Are you asking about like how parents are finding out about topics we're bringing, or are you asking what happens if a parent emails all of us what we do?
No, what I'm asking is in the future. So I'm not even referencing that. So what I'm saying is in the future, because we know that there's going to be possible conversations coming up. So let's say that there is a topic that is going to come up. This just so happened to be under the superintendent's report. Let's say next time is chairs. Let's use that as an example. If the administrative team has not had the chance to present to the school committee, we as a school committee and like our communication, let's say we get something preemptively, would we, whomever, Kevin, would you then say, would you like to have a conversation with, bring it back to the school principal, let's say it's a parent, bring it back to the school principal, or if it's a community member, say, hey, we're having a school committee meeting on such and such date, so that we're properly giving the place and space for the administration to provide the information that they need before getting into anything else that may possibly come up. It may not happen.
Yeah.
It's just, I like to be proactive. That's all.
I would say that I've been lucky enough since I've been here that every school committee chair has almost always redirected concerns either to me or to building principals. Typically, if there's an email sent to the school committee, I will typically reach out like I did this time about the topic, but then I will also email the chair and ask if they would like me to respond on behalf of the school committee. In this case, it wasn't really necessary because this person had also reached out to the principal of the high school. Principal of the high school had responded to the parent. I think you received a email from that parent saying, hey, all set, the principal reach out to me.
Yes.
Glad that we're still doing that. So it wasn't really needed.
Yeah.
But I would say that all of the chairs, since I've been here, have been great about
So I think
allowing the administration.
That's my thought too. And prior to you emailing us saying I'm happy to respond, so what I would say going forward is, Chris, like you took the responsibility to respond to emails as the chair. So I'm happy to continue that. I was not going to respond to that email though. I was going to ask Dr. Renda, do you have a comment on this? Would you like to? And I'm happy to just copy everybody so that you know I'm referring it to Dr. Renda. We're going to consult, and then we'll be getting back to this question as soon as possible. So I'll copy on first response on what I'm asking, unless Dr. Renda responds first.
Right, and like I said, this wasn't referencing anything that has currently happened. It's just proactively, since you're saying, hey, we're going to be reviewing these things. And again, with the way that we kind of have the structure in the country right now, I figure us being proactive and showing that we already have systems and processes in place to help maybe level set expectation. Not that they may see this, but at least we have something to reference to. That's all. That was the goal.
Thank you. I have to apologize. I gave you some bad information. I should have checked with the money man. We spent $15,000 on PSATs last year, almost 14,000.
In May of this year, yeah.
In May of this year.
Wow.
Do we do it twice a year?
No, just once.
Just once, right? So this now it's in October, the last year? it was
October
in May?
27th.
I'm just confused.
I don't know.
You said it's coming up October 27th, right?
Yeah.
That could be AP test too.
Yes.
I'm sorry, this was in May?
Yeah.
That wasn't PSAT then. Let me get we'll work this out because that could be AP testing.
Yeah, take your time. This
Yeah.
is an important number, and we're not going to decide anything tonight
That
anyway.
makes
So
more sense.
you can just bring it back next time.
Because you have more than one test, right?
Yeah, and it's coming from the same line, which is probably part of the confusion.
Probably AP testing.
So we'll get you that. We'll also get a couple models of what surrounding districts do.
Still,
Okay, does that complete your superintendent?
That is, yes, that is
All right.
for the superintendent.
Moving on to ongoing business, we see that there is none. There are also no chairperson's notes. Are there any other topics for discussion not reasonably anticipated 48 hours in advance of this meeting? Jim?
I spent a lot of time last week talking about trees. I don't know if you guys, which
Trees?
they're probably grown like. and
Devastated
basically,
about that.
It's like, we don't do trees, man. It's not what we do. It's not our trees. We got no control over the trees. I don't know if anybody reached out to you guys or not, but anyone who's not up to speed, they took down some big, beautiful maples on Lancaster right in front of Laurier White School. And there's a big hornet's nest buzzing around the town because in Shirley, we do a lot of things, but one of the things we do best is we love our trees, and we have bylaws on how that's supposed to happen because it's hard to put a tree back up once the tree is down, and there's a lot of moving parts here. But basically, I just told everybody, we got nothing to say about that, and those trees are not going back there. If anything goes back there, it'll be much smaller than what was there initially. That's
Yeah,
all I
we-
got.
So we're in communication with the town, so that a huge branch had fell from one tree into another. We were told that there was rot in the trees. They were the town's trees, not the school. They weren't wasn't part of our decision. But at the same time, there's a playground right there, and so
There's wetlands within 100 feet. There's all these things that
Yeah.
trigger all sorts of other stuff, but
Yeah.
that will be for the honorable board of select persons in Shirley to deal with.
yeah, they were. They certainly framed that area very nicely. But I'm no tree expert.
Okay. Any other topics?
no executive session.
Nope, I do not. Is there any executive session? Nope. Okay, I'll take a motion.
Do we want to do communications?
Oh, communications, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, no worries. All right, so I will read the announcements. All right, Wednesday, September 17th, Laura A. White has an open house from 5 to 7 p.m. Wednesday, September 24th, Page Hilltop has an open house from 5 to 7. On Thursday, September 25th, the high school has an open house from 6 to 8. On Sunday, September 28th, the annual Holden Trail Run 2K, 5K, and 10K is happening at 11 a.m. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. Hold on, let me read it as it's written. Registration and bib pickup opens at 9 a.m. The 2K is at 10 a.m. and the 5 and 10K start at 11 a.m. Wednesday, October 1st, there's a half a day, no afternoon preschool. Dismissal times for high school is 11:25, middle school 11:15, the elementary schools is 12:15. Thursday, October 2nd, Page Hilltop PTO meeting at 6:30 at Page Hilltop. Monday, October 6th, the athletics booster meeting is at 7 p.m. Tuesday, October 7th is our next school committee meeting at 6:30 in the high school at the Media Center. Wednesday, October 8th, Air Shirley Education Foundation meeting is happening at 7 p.m. in the high school in the Media Center. Monday, October 13th, there is no school in observance of Columbus Day. That's it.
Thank you. Good. With that, I will take a motion.
I will make a motion to adjourn. I can't see the clock, somebody read it to me. 7:59, thank you.
I would second that motion.
Later.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.